My name is Iver and I live in Skowhegan. Digging a hole and I just keep digging. When you're having troubles, people they don't want to have anything to do with you. And they kind of, they think somehow it's your fault that you're getting attacked or messed with. I know even this morning they were saying, you know, if you weren't such a tree hugger, you wouldn't get attacked. And I was thinking, I think I can be anything I want.
For the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, hello. I wanted to deliver a little talk here. I wanted to say Bill McKibben came to Farmington to speak last year, and we went to see him. He's the founder of an organization called 350.org. 350 is the number of parts per million of carbon dioxide in the air to avoid catastrophic global warming. We're already at 387 parts per million. At over 400 parts per million, there will be consequences. Bill is also a Methodist. The Methodists used to do something called circuit riding, where they would ride around and find people to preach the gospel to. And one of them, Bishop Asbury, was north of New York City when he came upon a bunch of people getting ready to have a dance. He stepped up on the stage and delivered a fiery sermon for 3 hours instead. Needless to say, he got shot at a lot. But he delivered his message all over the place. It's time to do some circuit riding again. This time it's for climate change and peak oil. I'd like to say something I've always wanted to say in the pulpit. Are you ready? Repent, ye sinners! I found out about peak oil. One of my students told me about a website called Die Off. So I read the whole thing, and it took a little while for it to sink in. I thought about it for quite a while, and then I realized, oh my gosh, this is a real possibility. And since then, I have been fascinated by the concept of peak oil, and it kind of colors everything. It's the key to understanding pretty much everything that's going on nowadays. Peak oil is the point at which the world cannot produce any more oil. It goes up and up and up and up to a certain point, and then it's going to start to come down, and you get less and less oil every year. So we're at the point right now where we're at the top or a little past the top of oil production.
I'm Lenny Reich. I'm a professor of science, technology, and society, and also of management at Colby College. I have found from my own teaching and from discussions with people all over the place that peak oil theory seems a little too abstract for most people to grasp onto. Some point in the future, whether it's now or 3 or 5 or 10 or even decades from now, at some point the production of oil, the day-to-day production of oil, is going to go down. We're going to have to deal with this, and there are no easy fixes. You can't just do this or do that, which I've heard from many people. You know, oh, there's no problem if we just take all the wastage that's left over from all of the plants, from all the crops, and we turn that into to cellulosic ethanol. That's going to solve the problem, you know, forever. And well, yeah, you can get a little bit of energy like that. And there are many, many other ways you can get a little bit of energy. You can get some from drilling in Anwar. But altogether, those sources are not going to add up to the amount that is going to be lost over time from normal oil production. We won't get enough to make up what we're losing and be able to maintain the kind of lifestyle that we've had these last few decades.
Basically, our whole economy is predicated on making more and more energy every year. Our economy, well, our capitalist system was based on 3% growth, because you could take out a loan, and since it's if your interest rate was 3% or so, you could start paying that loan off. And you could pay that loan off because you were pretty confident you're going to have a better job, make a little more money next year, and have a little more stuff, and do a little more things. And so little by little, you would be able to pay off a loan, or make something happen, or build a house, or make a living, etc. We're at the worst case scenario. We're going to be building lifeboats even as the ship is sinking.
Iver is kind of obsessive. And so he grabs on to a certain subject or topic, and he really chews on it, researches it, gets very excited, interested about it. So when it first came up, we thought it was going to be one of many of those types of things. And I think most of us sort of expected, you know, he'll move on to something else. But it's kind of odd. He's really stuck with this one.
Iver enlightened me about peak oil and preached it, and he's been talking about it for years, okay? And I there's lots of things that's, you know, because when Iver dives into something, he dives into it. And I kind of listen, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. But I don't have that same passion or that Iver has about it. It's eye-opening, and I definitely am concerned about, you know, where we're going in this world with the, you know, our dependency on oil. But I just did awareness and kind of understanding, and I let Iver do his thing and preach it.
You know, I think it's a lot like the stages of grief. I gave a talk a couple of years ago about the 7 stages of grief and how they relate to peak oil. First one, of course, is shock. 2 is denial. Then there's anger, bargaining, depression, testing, acceptance, and finally acceptance of peak oil and dealing with it. And you realize it takes a while to go through all these different stages just to get to the point where you're actually going to do something. And so I think most people are probably stuck up in the shock area and maybe the denial.
Iver's a twin, so he had so I have 2 older brothers who are the same age. Iver is much more expressive, much more emotional. I think he's much more in tune with certainly the natural environment.
I am the older brother, which Iver has been felt frustrated about for most of his life, I think. We grew up with a couple of siblings and my mom and dad in Katona, New York. We had a fairly ordinary childhood, although we did have goats and chickens and other animals around the house.
Well, Per has always been much more of a, he's kind of like the city mouse and I'm the country mouse, right? He's always been much more into that. He's lived in New York City, and he kind of, you know, wears a suit and tie to work and that kind of thing. In fact, when we were kids, we used to have goats in the backyard, and one time I left the door open to my house that I grew up in, and the goats got inside the house, and they ate all the buttons off of his suit that he had to wear to work every day.
I suppose I probably am more conventional. At least some of the choices I've made in my career and might be considered that. Iver's an artist and was always interested in the arts and always had an artist's view of the world. His direction, his path in terms of his interest in these causes was set pretty early.
At heart, the thing about Iver is that he would really like to see everybody be happy, healthy, living a good life. And the peak oil thing is a lot about trying to get people to understand there's something that's going to make them unhappy and unhealthy and their lives not so great.
I think peak oil is going to be very difficult for most people. I mean, the slow but sure drop off of most things is going to be very, very, very hard for a lot of people to weather. And I think that 80 years is, it seems like a long time, but that's just a blink of the eye and in historical terms. So I think the next 80 years is going to be a slow, gradual reduction of almost everything, the various things we're doing. But maybe we could have high-tech, low-energy future. I mean, that could possibly work. If people can live on a tenth of what they're living on now, that would be wonderful. But I think most people are not going to. I think we're just going to hit the wall and then deal with it.
I don't think Iver is as revolutionary or anything. I don't think Iver goes against the tide. I think Iver is very careful and he does things that he wants to do and he figures out how to do them.
Everything I do either is going to use less fossil fuel or switch to some alternate type of fueling things. The panel's going to be up there above the window. And hopefully it's going to be enough to run emergency lights and a couple little 12-volt plugs.
Well, what I'm doing is just kind of sizing the fuses.
Yeah.
Because your wire says, hey, I'll take 10 amps.
Right.
What the most that you're expected to draw on there is maybe an amp.
Yeah, right.
This panel is just an 80-watt panel. Yeah. So, wattage, you can equate it to a 80-watt light bulb, 60-watt light bulb. Yeah. One incandescent bulb you could run with this panel. But if you're using the LED lights,
Right.
you can. I think we said. Well, let me figure that out. You can run 200 of these little LED lights.
All the time, yeah. Wow. No. Well, we could use thicker wood too if you want. Yeah, these are going to run off the solar panel. They only draw 30 milliamps each. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I think it's very, very little. So I think they can be on, I'm hoping they'll be on all summer.
So what's going on tonight?
It's a energy forum at the UU Church in Oakland. So that should be kind of, and we're going to talk about different ways that energy is used, and also ways that you can cut down your own energy use. Up here is going to be some solar hot water panels, and they're getting fixed up at the radiator shop. So hopefully they get done soon. Welcome to Sugar House Journal. This is a show about tools and ideas that you can use to create sustainable communities. This month's show is about saving money and making less pollution using alternative fuels. And go. Well, thanks for coming and checking out the old sugar house here at Shea Lundorf. And we'll see you next month for another edition of Sugar House Journal. We'll try again. Go ahead. Well, the cost of energy is going up and up. And this month's show, we have a couple of people that have figured out some very interesting ways of saving money and also saving fossil fuels. Seems to me the less fossil fuels you can use, the better off you are nowadays. This month's Sugar House Journal will be about energy, and the cost of energy seems to be going up, and these people that we're going to be talking to have figured out ways of making more with less. Hi, I'm Iver Lofving, and this is Sugar House Journal. And we're at the Groundhog Kiln in Norwich Walk, built by Tim Sahaki and his father, and we're firing it for 3 days. And this is kind of a traditional skill around here because there were wood-fired potters in here around Skowhegan and Norwich Walk, and they produced their own pottery using the local clay. So Tim has kind of revived an old tradition here, and the groundhog has to get from, well, 0 degrees up to 2,500 in 3 days. So the only way to do it is keep feeding it. And if I drop anything, I just leave it. What he's built is a groundhog kiln, which means that it's partially dug into the ground, and it kind of stays nicely insulated. Well, let me tell you how this relates to Sugar House Journal. This is a local product that's made right here with using a renewable resource, which is wood, and producing a usable type of pottery. He produces stoneware, which is the hardest, highest fire pottery there is, and it was used around here for many, many years. People who had stoneware, they would use it to keep mice out of their food. They'd use it to store liquids. Face burning off. We'd use it for all sorts of things. These I did myself, the tree hugger mugs. So that's the tree hugger mug. It's got kind of a grimace on his face. As you can see, it's going to make a manly mug. I'll tell you what, gas right now is up to $2.76 a gallon, and it looks to me like it's time to do something, and do something now, before it becomes $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 a gallon. So now is the time to figure out ways to save energy and save money. Because not only is it $2.50 a gallon for gas, it's $2.50 a gallon for heating oil. It's going to be $2.50 a gallon for everything, and then it's going to be $3.50 a gallon, and we don't know where it goes to. I think the energy situation is extremely dire, and it's getting worse. Hey, thanks for joining us here at Sugar House Journal. Next month, we're going back to John Howe's to see his solar tractor. Don't miss it. Unfortunately, prices like this are a thing in the past. That's why we're going to see John Howe. He's an engineer who's been working on energy for quite a while now. He's built himself a solar tractor, a solar car, and a solar woods rig where he can cut and split his wood and not use a drop of fossil fuel.
This is a 50-year-old Farmo Cub converted to complete solar-powered electric drive. And I did this to see if this concept works in the light of the imminent decline of fossil energy. And sooner or later we'll have no fossil fuel, and I'm just wondering if it's possible that we could have a modern civilization without any fossil energy.
We figured it out, and originally we were producing 16 tons of carbon in our household. Now we're down to producing only 8 tons of carbon, so we're about half of what we started with, and we saved $2,655 a year from our changes. Thanks for joining us here at Sugar House Journal, and we'll see you next month. Is our life, we sing our thanks and praise, for all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good. We're sliding backwards in a lot of ways.
In that way.
And the core is the only place, Skowhegan and the Skowhegan town limits are the only place that are alive. I read this thing the other day, and they said in the 1940s, every farmer, if you went to town, you would stuff a bunch of butter under the seat, you would fill the trunk with stuff that you were going to trade. So you weren't going to town just to go to town. You were going to town to trade things. And I mean, I have that attitude. Like on the way down here today, I picked up a whole truckload of wood, just stuff they'd cut on the side of the road. But you know what I mean? I'm like, I have this new attitude. Like every time I go somewhere, I want to get some value. I want to get some cast iron. I want to buy some cast iron at a, cast iron cookware at some flea market. I want to fill my truck with something good. You know what I mean? Do you think they already took the bid?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, those are due on November 6th.
So what's that mean? That means that they've already decided what the price is. We're handing out these compact fluorescent light bulbs, and they save quite a bit of energy. They save about $1 a month if they use them in a place where there's a lot of usage, like their biggest light. And we should do this today because it's Super Bowl Sunday, and a lot of people are going to be using a lot of electricity, so we're sort of offsetting our electricity use by giving out compact fluorescent light bulbs. Yep. Yep. Good. Here's some light bulbs we're giving out.
Hi, this is an energy efficient light bulb. Okay, none of these boxes are being delivered to. We got a pesticide ordinance there, so I guess we can't go there.
Missing, isn't it?
Thank God. Well, I think what we're seeing is kind of interesting coming here because it's almost like there's a slow motion energy Katrina happening here. A lot of these people are not living here anymore. They, you come to a lot of the places and there'll be energy bills stuck in the door. So yeah, I think the bills are just swamping people. It's very hard to live in this northern climate and have to pay the bills that we're paying. And I think something has to be done, and I think this is a little start here to pass out the bulbs and save energy and save money. So I think we've done our bit as the Light Brigade. Ours is to reason why. My mother always says, I have like survival instinct. I'm like a cat, you can drop me and I'll land on my feet. It's time to change our ways. The average American uses around 3 gallons of petroleum per day. Now the worst thing is that we have to borrow the money for 2 of those gallons. We need to get back to using only the 1 gallon we actually have the money for. Now the trials and tribulations are inevitable now. Hellfire and brimstone is coming in the form of climate change and peak oil. What we really need to do now is adapt.
Hi Nelson, this is Iver, and I'll be building the solar car all next week. We're going to have a meeting of the peak oil group, but then after that we're going to be building the car all next week. Anyway, I'll see you sometime soon. Adios.
Henry Ford was the chief engineer for the Edison electric distribution system. Where's that go? Underneath? Behind it, yeah.
That's a workout.
You think so?
Taking the wheels out, bounce on the wheels.
The big block that you put everything down on. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a great thing, I think. We're gonna do about 1/3 of our driving, we figure, in this car, total mileage. Maybe more time in this one. But just to get around town, and this electric car should be a big money saver, but also, I'll tell you the truth, it's a fun thing to have, neat way to, it's one of our sort of things we're trying to do is reduce our energy use in our household. A car like this is going to really help us out in our household, but it also is going to be, kind of as an example of what you can do about peak oil. Some of the things that you can actually do. This car should run for about a penny a mile, and it should cost. It should get the equivalent of about 250 miles per gallon if you were to use gasoline. This is the cost of electricity being the way it is. So probably it'll, I figured it out, and if we use it for a third of our driving, and we take all three of our cars and we average them together, then that's going to be about 100 miles a gallon for the whole car fleet. Hang on. Let me move all of them. The Korean interview was kind of neat. It was about, basically had gone to talk to a lot of people about peak oil, and they said I was the only one that they talked to that was even slightly, cheerful about it. Not cheerful really, but didn't feel like it was going to be the end of the world. Said I was the, oh Jesus Christ. Excuse me. God. That's the worst thing I could have done right there. Haha, found it. And I'm not really that optimistic either, but I just feel like, there's something we can do. We can all do something. Like this little car, we get that on the road, it just represents hope. You can do something possible and something positive that we can do. We just don't have to just sit there and just wait for it to happen. We can change we can change our lifestyles and use half or a quarter as much energy as we've been using, and live just fine. I did. This is kind of the green person's motorcycle. You can go anywhere in the 35-mile-an-hour zone of town, so we go all around town and do our shopping and things like that. We stay off the big roads because there's no point to battling the traffic, but there's no other way to get across the bridge than to go across here. This can keep up with traffic in town. I mean, you can keep up with any traffic that you encounter in town. Every time I stop anywhere, people just congregate and talk to me about it. So it's really fun. You could have somebody next to you with a Maserati and they're not really that interested in it. They're more interested in our solar car. I think it's because it's something different. They're more interested because it's something different. There's something about it that's different than a regular car. I mean, if you had a little gasoline-powered car, a small gasoline-powered car like this, it wouldn't be that interesting. But I think the fact that it runs on solar and electricity really does, it just looks different. It's kind of funky and fun and cool. I think now it may be the time for this. And I think the idea of a neighborhood electric vehicle is something different too, because instead of trying to make a car like the cars we all drive around in, this is just a lightweight car for getting around town. So it's a different sort of a vehicle. It's like, I don't know, it's like a little motorcycle or something to get you around town. A moped. It's the moped of cars.
Tired of sky-high gas prices? Then get the Sun electric vehicle. Made right here in Maine, the Sun EV is charged by a solar panel or your household current. And with miles of range and plenty of storage space, the Sun EV is ready for all your local driving and shopping needs. And there's even room for two. The Sun EV. Help your wallet, the planet, even your fellow man. SunEV.com.
What does silver have to do with peak oil?
Like I say, silver is like real money. So, theoretically, this is like a thing that you could always barter. It holds its value. So you could use a silver coin. I mean, I had this idea of that, if things really go badly, you can take your unidentifiable walking liberty there and, go down to the farmer's market, and the guy will kind of chew on the coin and go, yeah, I guess it's real silver. All right, I'll give you, 12 rutabagas and a quart of milk.
What is it?
Cast iron.
Why are you collecting cast iron?
I'm collecting cast iron. I think cast iron is the real precious metal because you can always use it. Like, let's say the world really goes to crap. If the world really goes to crap, you can always, find yourself a squirrel, cut up a bunch of onions and different things, whatever, and cook them in a cast iron pot.
I think Iver, he's been telling people about the possible consequences for a long time, and simply people haven't been listening. So when you get this pattern of like talking about the consequences and nothing happens and there are no big changes, then it's very understandable that you start to get pessimistic and you start to believe that nothing will ever happen.
I showed my father the end of Suburbia, and he's pretty smart. Talked to him all about what's going on with oil, depletion, all this different stuff. What does he go out and get when he returns his stupid Jeep Cherokee in? Another Jeep Cherokee. And now he can't afford to drive anywhere. I mean, they can afford it, but they really can't afford it. So, I mean, I told him. But it's like he didn't hear what I had to say. He didn't actually hear what I said. And I find that's a big problem with, they call it cognitive dissonance. Everybody thinks they know how the world works, so they can't hear what you have to say, especially with regards to peak oil. So I just figure, well, I'll do what I can do, and people can emulate it or do anything or figure it out. So far, almost nobody has.
Well, I think the apocalypse thing is, it's kind of like the worst case scenario. And I think in terms of like a persuasive tactic, people use that in the hopes that it's going to have an effect, And so people throw out those kinds of dramatic visions so that you'll go, oh my God, I don't want that to happen. The problem with it is that it does come across for people as overly dramatic and extreme and pessimistic, and then they're kind of like, come on, it's not going to get to be that terrible, or that's over the top, an over the top vision. And I don't know if that necessarily persuades people.
CNN's coming Tuesday, and I'm going to try to, Tuesday afternoon, we're going to do a little frantic cleanup of the house and stuff tomorrow, try to get stuff ready. I'm thinking my house is pretty humble. I don't really live in a fancy place or anything, so I hope it, shows well on TV. I don't look just like some, kooky little poor person, which I guess I am. It's beginning to go mainstream. I don't know if it will become the buzzword of the next few years, but it's not an alien term. It's not just like a few people are interested in this in a little forum on the internet. It's now become something that the mainstream news media are interested in, and that's why CNN is coming to talk to me. And I don't know how I got to be the poster child, but I said, okay, I'll do it. I'd love to get a chance to talk to people about it. I'll take you for a little ride.
Well, no, I think what we'll do is we'll have. I'm sorry, where was the panel? Where was the solar panel you were talking about?
Two right up here, and one right in front of the house here. This is the CNN crew, and they're going to be filming me for the peak oil, a little peak oil blip on TV.
We get this gauge and temperatures.
Do I have to turn it on, or do you guys?
No, we take care of that. But just for the purposes of revealing where the family treasure is buried, you should always assume when you've got it on that it's transmitting. Right?
Yes.
So you're just getting this while they're setting up, right?
Exactly.
Then when Deb gets,
Okay, does everyone, I don't know how many people are here, know that we're about to need to be quiet?
Yep.
Okay.
Quiet on the set.
See, he knows. He's been through this.
He's way into it.
Iver Lofving is convinced the world is running out of oil. He spent the last 10 years getting ready for that day. A mainstream survivalist, chopping his own wood, installing solar panels, growing vegetables, even driving a solar-powered car.
How does peak oil play into the changes you're making in your life?
Well, peak oil has everything to do with it.
That's 4,000 gallons a year.
And peak oil groups like Lofving's have seen a spike in members.
I think that things can have the potential to get very, very bad if we don't do anything.
Hi, Nelson. This is Iver. Wondering how it's going. I think my 15 minutes of fame is up now, which is actually fine by me. See you later.
Iver's an activist. I'm not an activist. I just study, read, think, sometimes talk, but Iver really works at it. He's doing things, everything he can think of, anything he can do, no matter how small, no matter how big, he will do it along the lines of taking care of this problem that we are all in, having to do with peak oil, having to do basically with energy.
I had been dying to tell everybody about peak oil. And, I sort of felt like, okay, my mission in the world is to tell everybody about peak oil and what they can do about it. And I thought maybe once people understood it, they would instantly, jump to doing things. As it turns out, people don't really work that way. They do what everybody else does.
I'm wondering if, Iver has turned to religion in the same way that he's turned to peak oil, that it's sort of something that he's picked up because he's getting older, and it's kind of like tied in with that idea of impending doom. Well, how does being a Christian fit with the peak oil thing?
I think you could be anything, really, and believe in peak oil. Peak oil is just science. It's just about science. It's just about, do you believe in reality? Okay. Okay. Well, we're heading to Waterville for the peak oil meeting, the last regular peak oil meeting for a little while. I'm going to try to get them into the 2020 vision, which is Waterville's vision for sustainability, which I think is a great idea because you move beyond sort of just talk into some action. And, action is where we're talking. Talk is cheap. We're going to the Waterville UU Church and the Universalist Unitarian Church, or are we Universalist Unitarian? Anyway, it's a church that's been in Waterville for at least 150 years, something like that. And the church is kind of a denomination that accepts a lot of people from different faiths, and I'm not sure exactly what the sermon is going to be about today, but they're usually pretty good. They're usually not too preachy. And we're going to be going to the church, and then right after it is the peak oil meeting. It was like, we were, telling people about peak oil, and, you sort of feel like, well, if everybody knew what the heck the deal is with peak oil, maybe they'd start doing something. People would actually pay attention and do something. Well, it didn't work out that way. Most people did absolutely nothing. Right now there's a line of 4 giant trucks with snowmobiles, trailers tied to them behind us. And they're all, they've all been up snowmobiling north of here. And you look at them and you just think, that is unsustainable recreation happening right there. And, what's the point? Those guys are driving thousands of dollars worth of rig up to just play around and burn some gas. And, that kind of nonsense has got to end. I think they're having a fun time and it keeps the economy going, etc. But that kind of nonsense has got to end, and we've got to use our energy for things that actually make sense. We're all like 2 inches from the edge. I mean, we're all like losing our job. We're like, we're right on the edge of absolute, bankruptcy, etc. Think about it. Everybody's on the edge of trouble. And that's why I think, you do have to have a little bit of faith. You have to have a little bit of faith that things will work out, or things will work out the way they're supposed to. And that doesn't mean I'm going to let go and quit trying and have faith. No, that means you're going to try everything you can, and still you need to have faith that things will work out. Shall I go up into the belfry? This old church has been through a lot of different things, and you can see it's been burned. It almost burned up a couple times. The insulation problems could have caused the demise of it, but it just keeps going. So maybe, who knows, into the 21st century, it keeps reinventing itself and becoming a place that people want to come to. I think it's going to be a community center for a place past peak oil. I mean, if we can keep the place going, it'll become the kind of place that people will like to come to. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You don't get off that easy.
Thank you so much, thank you so much, thank you.
And Bill
Thank
was
you.
the other one,
Thank
but you
you.
weren't here.
Thank you so much, yeah, thank you. I'll admit I was actually like thanking God that somebody's paying attention.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Hello. If your refrigerator's running, you ought to go catch it. And I wanted to introduce people. This is Bill Drinkwater, Bob Wellick. I'm Iver Lofving. Bill Drinkwater is going to talk a bit about electric cars in Maine, practical transportation options for a scarce oil future. Love it.
Transportation as we know it will end soon. And we all know the reason why. It's peak oil, which is, of course, is the peak of oil production worldwide. This is basically a permanent energy shortage. I predict by 2014, then everyone will realize we've got a real problem.
Well, we're going to try to change the peak oil group into the 2020 group, if that's okay. Are you guys all right with that? I mean, because, talk is cheap. So, and I was thinking, we spent, we've been doing this for 5 years. We started in 2004. And, for a long time, it was like peak oil's coming, and you're kind of trying to get everybody interested in it. Well, peak oil is here.
If he's interested in something, he goes at it and consumes it, And so sometimes it rocks the boat because it's not what other people are interested in.
I know I'm out of step with this community because I went to a dinner the other day, like a retirement dinner, and I was ridiculed for bringing a salad. And I was thinking, I was supposed to bring some kind of a dish or something, so I brought a salad from my garden. I cut off all the lettuce and had some asparagus in there and some spinach. It was a really good salad, and some local tomatoes. I thought it was really good. I had some dressing with it, and I was ridiculed for it the next day because nobody else brought anything that didn't have like bacon in it. So I was thinking, like, what is it? I mean, if I'm that far out of step with this place that a salad is kind of a crazy thing to bring to a dinner, I don't know what to do. I feel like I've lived here longer than I've lived any other place. And I think it might be because I came here later. I really haven't bonded to the place, but I do live here. It isn't like it's like my favorite place in the world. They say that the culture or the thing that you're, like the music that you're into, you're going to pick up from the ages of 14 to 28. And that's the time when you really pick up a culture. If you think about it, your high school years and a little bit after that is when you pick up a culture. And I didn't live anywhere near here for those years. So I just moved over here. I don't know, I think I kind of looking for a place to be. But it isn't the kind of a place, I think I missed the point where you like fall in love with the place. I've been here, doing my thing, and really have gotten, like this sugar house has gotten attacked 5 times, 6 times, different ways. They shot out the windows 2 or 3 different times with high-powered rifles and shotguns. And really, I have not, and I'm not just saying this, I have not done anything to tick anybody off around here. They should not have been ticked off at me. I have never done anybody wrong. I have never treated anybody badly. I have just been here, and because of the mere fact of my existence, I'm attacked all the time. I think I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing anything wrong. I can't be their culture, so I don't know how I can possibly become those people so that I don't get attacked. So I've realized there isn't any way. So then I've also begun to think, and this is, I've begun to think that maybe this place won't hold. I'll try to, hold it for a while, but I have other plans also.
think you know the truth, and I bet you think they're after you. And I know you think you've got the clout, but don't call me when it don't work out.
Well, I'm going to go pluck some taps and talk about peak oil. Why not, right? This is all we have left after the season. This is the one last half pint of maple syrup. We sort of split the other ones up. The others go to orders and people come in and buy. And my partner, John, and I split up, our business partners, we split up the last of the maple syrup. I thought it was a great season. It was short, it was sweet, and nobody shot at our shack. So I think it was great. We ended up with about 22 gallons of mostly light amber, which was great. Blunk. Blink. Well, when CNN came and visited me, I really felt some relief because, you know, I had felt like I found out about this peak oil thing. Nobody seems to really understand. It's like, you know, you're on the Titanic and you're trying to tell everybody what's going on, and, you know, there's an iceberg that's gashed a hole in the side of the boat. So I basically was able to tell, I figure, over 50 million people about peak oil. So now I don't feel any urgency about telling everybody else what's going on. You know, the boat is sinking. I tried to tell everybody, but nobody really seems to really care that much. So now I've told 50 million of my fellow passengers. So, I mean, so what? The ones that are right around me don't really get it. That's okay. I've, you know, tried to tell them. People need a reason to exist, you know. What are we going to figure out for a reason, you know? What is... Peak oil was my reason. I think it still is kind of my reason. But now, since I've told everybody, I would say I'm ready. I'm more of a prepper now. I'm preparing and figuring out things. My second job is sort of preparing for peak oil. I spend an hour or two every day doing something that's preparation related. I figure everything I do with maple syruping is preparation related. Everything I do cutting wood for the house, that's preparation related. Anything I do, you know, collecting cast iron cookware, that's preparation related, anything like that. So if you lump it all together, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours every afternoon that I spend doing some kind of prepper activity. No, I don't have the peak oil blues anymore. I do, you know, when I really think about it, like I think about like how the economy's doing or something like that, I have a little bit of the blues because I'm sort of like, well, you know, it's almost like this beautiful day here. You know, you're in this beautiful day, you know, you're living in it. It's, you know, things are not, I mean, it's spring. And you feel good about it, but then you think about it and, you know, there's another winter coming. Well, you know, winter's coming. Okay. You know what I mean? Peak oil is like the winter. You know, I kind of know that it's coming, but right now it's a beautiful day. There's a little bit of wind. It's shaking the beech leaves around a little bit. There's a beautiful blue sky. We're here. There's the gray trunks of the trees. I mean, you know, what's not to like? So I think it's kind of like that with our life right now. I feel sort of like, okay, things are kind of going okay. And, you know, I worry about it, you know, like that Grateful Dead song, when things are good, you know, there's danger at your door. And it's true. But, you know, then you also have to just sort of enjoy that day, the particular day you're in. And, you know, since it is getting closer, I am getting more scared. But, you know, you just prepare and you do what you can.
I think I'm just lucky to have him as an uncle. I mean, he does have, even with all his like pessimistic foreseeing of calamities, you know, he has like thought his theories through, and he is trying to make a positive change in the world. Even if sometimes he doesn't believe he can make that change, I still think he's trying to. And I'm proud of him for doing that.
The thing about peak oil is, you know, just because the world's going to change tomorrow doesn't mean you can't enjoy it today. You can see some of this, what we're up to downstairs after the service today. And it's always good to thank God for what we've been given. But as James says in the Bible, faith without deeds is dead. It's time to get out there and do some circuit riding. Repent, ye sinners! That's all I have to say. So I hope you guys make it. Thank you.
Very good.
Was that okay?
Across the room with those eyes. You stare me down and take away every little lie. I'm dripping down a hall 10 miles tall and hidden in the haze. You remind me of the moments when I wandered through the day. I'm perfectly aware of how we seem to other minds, but I collapse within the sound your body makes when next to mine.
Peak oil, a love story. Peak oil explained. Well, peak oil, I think, is going to affect everybody and everything. So I bought this electric bike.
See me getting ready, put my walking shoes on. Digging in the ocean just for sand, so it's almost gone. I don't need a prophet just to see where the danger lies. It's everywhere around us, permeates through our daily lives. It's going up in smoke, soon we're gonna realize. Tell me when the well runs dry. When will your power lie?
No, it's much better. It's like, you know, the county, it's only like 30, 40 people. Yay!
Learning to make candles, bow and arrow, read the sky.
We're doing the peak oil circus here.
Understand the stars, will be clearer when the smokestacks die high. In the end, I feel that we will scorch the earth when the well runs dry. Tell me when the well runs dry. When will your power lie?
We use 20% of the world's oil, and we only have 2% of its reserves. I think we hit peak in 2008. Which was surprising. We thought we'd hit peak in 2005. We hit peak everything, and you know, we really have. I mean, you know, there's the peak of everything was kind of last year. I mean, the peak of, well, you know, it all was kind of close to last year and the year before. There's only so much oil in the world.
something about oil for some reason that they want to stay on.
It's the best stuff around. I mean, shall we go for some ice cream? What do you want to do?